Hey everybody, and welcome to Meteor Tutorials. This tutorial is all about stories. Again, stories are a Scrum concept, uh, typically called user stories. I won't get too much into them, but just as a primer for those who may not know, stories are. Okay, I'll give you two. I'll give you sort of like the textbook answer, and then I'll give you, just so you have a good, just bear with me, right? So you have a good understanding of what we're talking about here. Textbook answer is that a story is called a user story because the point is to define an outcome, right? So for instance, there's a format to it as a user, as a project owner, right? So as a project owner, I want to be able to invite other users to my project so that we can collaborate. So that's like how a user story usually formatted. Now I'm going to give you my kind of opinion based on my years of project management now, that generally user stories just become tasks. It's very, unless you want to really hold to it, you have to have a team that really wants to hold to that structure and utilize it. Now, the important thing about if you're going to do that is user stories tend to have a lot of subtasks. I haven't, in my career, interfaced with a lot of people or teams that have really said, okay, we're going to define every user story like that, and then we're going to create subtasks, right? So usually user stories end up just being the task, and you just write out what the task is. So Tess kind of does the same thing. I'm going to show you two ways to create a story. One's going to be the hard way to create a story, and another way is going to be the easy way to create a story. So the hard way, just like the hard way for epics, is to click the create story button. So you click the create story button and you'll get this window. So you want to give the story a title. For instance, I want to create a login page for mobile. Great. Okay. Then we need to assign it to a epic. So this epic is obviously the Sushi Finder mobile app development epic, and then we hit create. And boom, we have created a story. Now, you'll notice the story is just a title. We added an epic to it, right? But there's really not much else in here. So if I wanted to add all that other detail, I could click the story, and then as you can see, all of these fields are available again, and then I can add a description. Okay, and then the acceptance criteria is people can log in. Done. Okay. Let's say I also want to assign some points to that, and then I'll assign myself to it. Great. Okay, now you can see a lot has changed here, right? So now we have a little bit of the description here. We have the points, and then if we have who's assigned to it set up over here, right? That is the hard way to do all of this. The easy way is, let's just delete this and start fresh so you can see. I can just click generate stories. Now, a key thing we want to point out here is I did not select an epic. This is important. If you just click generate stories without selecting an epic, what you're going to give to Tess to generate those stories is a project name and description. That's it, right? So she's going to take that project name and description and then give you a list of stories. One of the key things I want to point out, and it's really important at this stage, is the best results you're going to get from an AI, any AI that you interact with right now, any generative AI, is you start big and then you work through the details. So you start at the highest level and work down through the details with the AI. Tess is no different. So when you generate stories at this level, and I'm going to go ahead and do that, what you're going to get, and it's going to take a little bit longer, right? Because Tess is trying to think, what are all the things that need to get done for this entire project, right? And what you're going to get is generally some high-level tasks out of this. As you can see, she generated quite a bit, but retrieve user location, provide detailed restaurant information, integrate with payment gateway. These are great stories. They really are. They're not, you can tell that they're kind of disjointed. They feel sort of like picked out. You may want to use Tess in this way, to just have her grab stuff for you like this. And that's great. And then you can decide maybe you don't want this one. Actually, we need that, but let's see one that maybe we don't want to include. Integrate with payment gateway. Yeah, we don't actually need that, so let's uncheck that. And then we'll go ahead and accept, right? So what you'll get is all of these stories, none of them attached to any epic at all, which is fine. Maybe that's what you want to do. If you want to start attaching them to epics, you can come in here manually and attach them to epics. So this is sort of a mapping and geolocation integration. Sure, why not? Doesn't need to be exact. And then you can do that through all of them. Or what you can do is select an epic. So for instance, I'm going to select the user interface and interaction design epic, and then I'm going to generate some stories. Now what you're going to get from Tess are more targeted stories. She's going to really focus in on specifically user interface and then user experience. So we'll wait a second as she generates those. Okay, now we have, and as you can see, sometimes she comes back with that specific user story format, which is fine, right? It's called a user story. As a user, I want to easily navigate the application using an intuitive end user interface. You get some details here, and as you can see, quite a bit of user interface, user experience stuff. Let's just go ahead and accept all of that. Great. Now, as you can see, she's created all those. All of this is associated to that specific epic. She's given us description, acceptance criteria, assigned some initial story points to them. So as you do this, you'll want to go through every single epic and generate stories. That's really the recommended way to go through this, right? Is to just go through all these stories after they've been generated. You want to make sure, okay, this maybe doesn't have a specific nuance that your specific technology needs to be in here for this criteria, or maybe your specific company's systems, whatever it is, right? And you need to make sure that that's covered. You'll definitely need to go in here and review that. And this will be a common theme among all of the AI generated stuff. We're going to get you, Tess will get you 90%, sometimes 95% of the way there, right? Every single time, as long as you put good descriptions in and you go the top-down approach, you'll get 90 to 95% of the way there on every single thing that's generated. It's up to you to spend that last 5% to really just hone everything in. Okay, so now, as you can see, we've got a bunch of stuff. If I go back to user interface interaction design, I'm thinking, okay, these are great, but there's more stuff to do here. I need more stuff. Okay, great. Let's just go ahead and give Tess what she's already created, right? So we give her these, and then we say generate some more for us. So she's going to do that. She's going to take into account all the stories that we currently have for this epic, and she's going to try and identify anything else that we may have missed. So boom, here we go. She has generated some stuff that she thinks we might have missed. One thing to watch for is sometimes she'll end up doubling up on stories. It's just, again, it's the nature of kind of how AI interacts with things right now. It's not always perfect, but again, 90-95% of the way there. Let's see, search by name. Okay, so here's some search stuff, view the map, menu, and if I go, you know what, I don't really need to see a menu. Probably want to see a menu, but let's just say for whatever reason I don't. Okay, great. Now that doesn't get added, but now we have more stories for the UI UX stuff. So here you go. That's how you would continue to further enrich the work that needs to get done within this epic. And then the final thing I'll note here is, as you can see, everything's blue. All these epics are blue. So if you get to a point where you're starting to pile up on these epics and all the blue is like, wait a minute, it's all bleeding together, just change the color. It's no big deal. It'll make it a little bit easier to identify the difference between them. If you have this many, you're going to start doubling up on colors. We tried to add a pretty extensive list of available colors. Okay, so the last thing I'll show you is, let's say, obviously you can create some comments. So I'm going to make a comment here. All right, now I've created a comment. Because this is my comment, I'm able to edit this. You can't edit other people's comments. So, let's say I go, this is a great story. Okay, whatever. Really doesn't matter what you put in here. Okay, there we go. Great, okay, this is 100% a great story, cool. And then if I look at this and I go, that really didn't add anything useful to this, I'm just going to delete it. I can delete my comment. So, if you made a comment, you can edit it, delete it in those different ways. You can also delete stories as well. Seems like a given, but point it out for you there. And that's it. That's everything you need to know about creating, editing, generating stories.